Huh. Okay. Hey guys, it's Brian. Welcome to the Awards Contender. Let's talk about the Critics' Choice Awards, which were held just a few hours ago. I wasn't able to watch most of the show. I went out for dinner with some friends, and so I kept checking my phone every few minutes to see who was winning. And the part of the show I caught was Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress, going to the obvious, right? The people we all expected were going to win. Kieran Culkin for A Real Pain and Zoe Saldana for Amelia Perez. And when I left for dinner, I was like, well, maybe there'll be one surprise or something, but it's probably going to be very predictable. We'll get, the winners we're all expecting and, in picture, in director, in original screenplay. And this was me at the dinner, like checking my phone, like, oh my God. 10 minutes later, oh my, what? What, like, wait, John M. Chu for director? And then towards the end of the ceremony, when Anora has won nothing, like when Sean Baker did not win original screenplay and Mikey Madison didn't win actress, I said, well, that's it for Anora. That's it for my favorite film of 2024. It went home empty-handed at the Golden Globes, and it's going home empty-handed at Critics' Choice. At freaking Critics' Choice, Anora's gonna win nothing? Like, what? Like, I was bummed. I was like, that doesn't feel right to me. I don't know. So I kept refreshing my phone, and I was like, okay, what's picture gonna go to? It's probably The Brutalist or Conclave, maybe Wicked. John M. Chu, one director, so maybe it will be Wicked. I don't know. And then I looked at my phone, and it said, Best Picture, Anora. And I went, for like the third time at this dinner around a bunch of people, I went, whoa, what? Say what you want about Critics' Choice. They gave us some surprises this year. This was not just like pedestrian, predictable, like, oh yeah, okay. Basically outside of maybe a tiny surprise, like basically everything we expected. Like Critics' Choice, like they threw us for a loop here. And at this point, I don't know what to think. I'm like, okay, like what am I supposed to do with this information moving forward? I'm not so sure. Critics' Choice year to year is typically not a ceremony we really look to for okay, what's going to win the Oscars and things? Like, just because Anora won Best Picture at Critics' Choice, that doesn't mean Anora's necessarily going to win Best Picture at the Oscars. I do think it helps that movie a little bit that it could win Best Picture at a major televised ceremony. That does make me feel a little better right now about Anora's chances moving forward. But I'm not going to be super confident necessarily, moving into BAFTA and SAG and the Oscars, oh, well, now Anora is going to do amazing or anything. I am truly baffled at this moment. Why would Anora at Critics' Choice lose in original screenplay, lose in director, lose in actress, but win Best Picture? That makes no sense to me. I don't know what to do with that. I'm just like, what? And Nora here, pulling a Grand Hotel, Grand Hotel from the 1930s where, it's not winning anything else. It wins Best Picture and nothing else. That's pretty unusual. I think I read this is the first time at Critics' Choice a movie has won Best Picture without winning in any other category. And Anora is such an incredible film. First off, I'm very happy it won Best Picture. But second, why can't it win anywhere else? It's very odd to me that Mikey Madison at least couldn't win Best Actress if the movie was going on to win Best Picture. I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of weird, but I'm still very thrilled that my favorite film of the year won Best Picture at Critics' Choice. That is great. I'm very happy about that. The wildest win at Critics' Choice has to be John M. Chu winning Best Director for Wicked without a DGA nomination and without an Oscar nomination. Like, they went with John M. Chu in director. Like, I can't imagine too many people were predicting that. I mean, for most people, he was probably at the very bottom of their predictions to win in Best Director or Critics' Choice. I mean, when it comes to the critics, I would have assumed they would have gone with Brady Corbet for The Brutalist. You know, I mean, that's such a critical darling, that movie, and it's such an impressive directorial achievement. I mean, John M. Chu did a very good job with Wicked, of course. I mean, I keep thinking about how Wicked could have been a disaster. Like, that movie could have really crashed and burned in a variety of ways, from the casting, you know, to the look of the movie, to the way the songs are visually represented in the film. Like, there could have been so many bad decisions, and while I don't think that movie's perfect, it's a very good film, and it was a huge blockbuster. So many people love Wicked. You know, for John M. Chu to pull that movie off the way he did is an accomplishment. So this is not a bad win, I would say, for Best Director. It's kind of inspired in a way, especially with John M. Chu not in at DGA or the Oscars. It's like, okay, we're just gonna go with, I guess, the director we like the best in terms of the work he did on screen. I'm just like, I don't know what to do with that. It's not like we got a surprise Best Director win for like Jacques Audiard or for like Coralie Farja or someone who's nominated in director at the Oscars who could like pull out a win. You know, I feel like, again, if Anora is going to win Best Picture, why not give director at Critics' Choice to Sean Baker? That would have been great. And then we'd really be going, like maybe Sean Baker isn't out of this in director. Like maybe he has a shot moving forward. But with John M. Chu winning in director or Critics' Choice, it's like, okay. It's like what do we do with that? I mean, I guess like Brady Corbet is not as set in winning the directing Oscar as we thought. But because the winner at Critics' Choice is not nominated in this category at the Oscars, you know, there's not much to take away from that. But, I mean, even though I very much enjoyed Wicked, it just seems like an odd choice for the critics. Like, for Critics' Choice to give their Best Director pick to John M. Chu Wicked, you know, that's interesting to me. Like, I would not have expected that, even if John M. Chu were in at DGA and at the Oscars. I'd still be kind of surprised by that choice. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you know, I'm looking at my phone at this dinner like, what? My tweet was just, what? Like, what do I do with this? So yeah, I mean, interesting. I love me a good surprise. Whether it's at the Globes or Critics' Choice or BAFTA or SAG or the Oscar, like, I don't care. Like, don't just give me, like, the same people, ceremony to ceremony. By the time we get to the Oscars, this category is sewn up, and we've seen Brady Corbet win everywhere, and it's like, okay, boring, we know. Like, you know, for the most part, like last season, the same people were winning in all the categories, and most of the acting categories, in director, like, you know, it was just the same people from ceremony to ceremony. And, you know, they were all deserving, and that's great, but it, like, sometimes you like a surprise. Like, I appreciate one. I was hoping at Critics' Choice for one big surprise. And we got 3, I would say. I mean, I guess Anora winning picture isn't, like, a huge surprise, just, like, on its own, but because the movie didn't win in any other category, like, you have to take that Best Picture win for Anora as a surprise. John M. Chu in director is, of course, a giant shocker. I mean, how can it not be? And then the other huge surprise at Critics' Choice, I would say, was Anora not taking Best Original Screenplay. It instead went to The Substance. Coralie Farja for The Substance. And, like, I've been thinking about that lately. I'm like, okay, so Anora did not win Screenplay at the Golden Globes. That went to Conclave, where they don't have at the Globes adapted and original. They just have the one category. Went to Conclave. I thought, okay, well, maybe Anora was in second place, and, you know, Anora will be very competitive to win in original moving forward. Now we get to Critics' Choice, and even though, again, Anora won Best Picture, It couldn't win original screenplay. That went to The Substance instead. And so moving forward, I'm like, is The Substance going to be the front runner in original screenplay? Is it going to be Get Out? You know, a really clever horror film that's going to take the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, potentially over Anora. Like, you know, just because The Substance won here at Critics' Choice, that doesn't necessarily mean, oh, okay, it's over for Anora in this category moving forward. This is just one ceremony. We'll see what happens at BAFTA. You know, BAFTA will be like, you know, a big guide in terms of what's going to happen moving forward. We have WGA awards in a week or so. It is not over for Anora here, but The Substance winning at Critics' Choice, it does make me wonder. Could Coralie Farja actually win an Oscar this year for The Substance? Like, could she actually win? She's nominated in both original screenplay and director. I mean, I really don't think she has a chance to win at the Oscars in director. That would be surprising to me. I mean, it would be one of the most delightful surprises of the night. I would freak the F out. I would go nuts. But I'm like, you know, she is in both director and original screenplay, and people love The Substance. It's one of the big swings of 2024. Maybe Coralie Farja could take Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars over Sean Baker. You know, going into the season, I just felt like Anora was going to be stronger. And I thought, man, even if it can't win anything else, it's got to take original screenplay, right? Like, it's got to win there. And then Critics' Choice, you really, you know, making me scratch my head because it doesn't win original screenplay, but it does take picture. So I'm like, okay. I'm excited to see what happens at BAFTA in a few days. We'll see what they go with in original screenplay, in picture. You know, Critics' Choice isn't necessarily going to line up exactly with the Oscars the way that BAFTA might. The way BAFTA did last year, almost in every category, BAFTA and the Oscars aligned very well. So, I mean, in terms of precursors, like, the ones I'm really going to be looking at closely, it's not Critics' Choice necessarily. It's going to be BAFTA. So we'll see what they do. But yeah, those three surprises are great. And then we get to the acting categories where I wouldn't say there was a big surprise. I have felt for a long time, like, even though Demi Moore is like growing in strength, I felt like Mikey Madison would be the Critics' Choice in Best Actress. I'm like, come on, that is just an all-timer performance. She is so freaking great in Anora. She's gotta win one televised precursor ceremony. Like, I've already felt like since she lost the Globe, I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's going to be Mikey Madison's year, like, to win the Oscar or anything. But I thought she could win at Critics' Choice. Like, I thought, they might go for her. But no. In Best Actress at Critics' Choice, they went with Demi Moore for The Substance. Which, as I've been saying for months, like, if somebody has to win over Mikey Madison, I am all good with it being Demi Moore. I have loved her since I was a kid, and she gives her career best performance in The Substance. For a performance like that, to win Best Actress this season is so great. I mean, I think by the time we get to Oscars night, if Demi Moore ends up winning at BAFTA and SAG, it'll just be like a foregone conclusion. We'll all be like, yeah, it's going to be Demi at the Oscars. But like, even if that were to happen, even if she sweeps, I am never going to stop being super enthusiastic about this particular win in the acting categories, because that is not a performance that any voting body usually goes for. And for Demi Moore to win at the Globes, to win now at Critics' Choice, and potentially sweep. I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm feeling pretty good about her chances at SAG. Like, that feels like a SAG win. I mean, I guess BAFTA could go for someone else there, but like, you know, Fernanda Torres, who I still feel is kind of like her biggest threats, like, she's not nominated at BAFTA or SAG. So, like, Demi Moore could keep winning, and then the only time Moore and Torres go head-to-head in the same category is at the Oscars. That's going to be the only time. And as I said in my I'm Still Here video I put out a few days ago, like, I think Torres can overtake Moore if Moore stumbles anywhere along the way. And like, I had a feeling she might lose at Critics' Choice. I thought Demi Moore could maybe lose to a Mikey Madison or someone, but no, they went with Moore. And it's like, okay, well, that's another trophy for the mantle. And again, I'm feeling good about SAG, and she might win BAFTA too. I feel like if Demi Moore wins everything, that's going to be crazy if she loses the Oscar. You know, like, I can't possibly imagine that happening. So we'll see what happens at BAFTA, but, you know, another great speech for Demi Moore. She is giving the great speeches of the season. Holy cow. I can't wait for more. Right? I can't wait for more at the upcoming award shows. Her speeches are so great. I'm so happy she won. I would have liked to have seen Mikey Madison take this. That would have been cool. But I'm so happy for Demi Moore. What a moment she is having right now. And for just a freaking great performance in one of the best movies of 2024, The Substance. I love it. And then in Best Actor, I mean, I've been thinking for a while, I'm like, Timothée Chalamet might win at SAG. Like, they really went for a complete unknown there. But I was like, at Critics' Choice, they gotta go for Adrien Brody, the Brutalist, right? And that's what they chose. They went with Brody. So he won Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama at the Golden Globes. And now he's won Best Actor at Critics' Choice. And so he is in a good place right now. Like, to win both the Globe and Critics' Choice. I mean, remember a year ago, like, Cillian Murphy did not win at Critics' Choice. Like, they went with Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers. So now Brody has both, the first two big precursors. And, like, I feel like if Brody can win at BAFTA, even if he were to lose at SAG to Chalamet, I don't know. I feel like Brody is looking pretty good right now for the Oscar win. As long as he wins at least BAFTA moving forward, it's going to be hard for me to predict anyone else but him to ultimately win the Oscar. So yeah, I think that was a big win, a big get for Adrien Brody. So well deserved. That is my favorite male performance in cinema in 2024. Adrien Brody in The Brutalist. He now has won at both the Globes and at Critics' Choice. The supporting acting categories went exactly like we thought they would. Again, you know, Kieran Culkin winning Best Supporting Actor. He was not there at the ceremony to give a speech. I guess he's in rehearsals on Broadway right now, so we'll see how that works. I'm like, okay, Kieran Culkin, if you want to maintain your status as the frontrunner and Best Supporting Actor, you have to be there to give speeches. Like, you can miss one. Like, if he had to miss one, like Critics' Choice, I think he'll be safe. He'll be fine. But, like, if Kieran Culkin wins Best Supporting Actor at BAFTA and SAG, and he's not there to give speeches, like, I mean, not to say that that should necessarily, like, you know, completely erase your chances to win at the Oscars, but these speeches matter. Look at what Demi Moore is doing and how she is, like, stepping up to the plate. This is a moment she has been waiting for decades. This is her moment. And, like, she's probably thinking, okay, the least I can do is have a really good speech prepared. So if I do win, I've got a badass speech to deliver, and that's what she's given us twice. Kieran Culkin, like, not even being there, you know, I don't know. That's not a great look. I feel like he'll show up to the next two. I mean, maybe he misses BAFTA. If he's busy on Broadway and stuff, maybe he does miss BAFTA. He has to go to SAG, right? He has to show up at SAG. But SAG happens after Oscar voting has closed, so I guess it doesn't even matter that much whether or not he goes to SAG. I don't know, but going into Critics' Choice, I was like, are we going to get a surprise in one of the two supporting acting categories? You know, we've all been feeling for a while like, well, maybe we'll get Ariana Grande in Best Supporting Actress. And I still feel like her time might be coming. Like, Ariana Grande could win at SAG, I feel like that could happen. But no, Best Supporting Actress at Critics' Choice went to Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. And obviously, there's been a lot of controversy about that movie the last few days. I've made a video about it. Many people who do what I do have made a video about that controversy. But as I've been talking about with some friends and things, two places that controversy doesn't seem to be affecting it are Best Song at Critics' Choice. El Mal won Best Song, and in Best Supporting Actress for Zoe Saldana. I do think, even though her movie is a part of all of these controversies and things, I do think in a way Zoe Saldana will be able to distance herself from all of that. And she is separate from those controversies, and it's very well possible she will continue to sweep in this category, and maybe Ariana Grande doesn't win anything. I mean, as I've been talking about for a long time, I'm there's a second Wicked movie coming. I do think that might be hurting both Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande. Enough voters are we could give one of them a trophy right now. But there's a part 2 coming in November. Maybe we can give them the prize next year. So I do think that might hurt them both pretty big at the end of the day. If at the end of this award season, after the Oscars, if Erivo and Grande win nothing, I will attribute some of that to there being a second Wicked movie coming. I've been thinking about the last few days. I'm is there enough enthusiasm really for Emilia Perez for Zoe Saldana to sweep and win everywhere? Is there enough really enthusiasm for that? I personally do think she's the best part of that movie. I've only seen it the one time at the Toronto Film Festival, and I liked it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it like most of the world hates this movie. Zoe Saldana is a lot of fun in that. She has a really great presence as that character, and all of the different things she gets to do in that movie, the emotion, the musical numbers. It is a pretty great performance through and through, and this is someone who's been around a long time, has done a lot of great performances in movies and big franchises and smaller dramas, and she has been doing this a long time. And I do think Ariana Grande, in terms of cinema, is so new to the medium that also hurts her a little bit. If there's enough wild passion for Wicked, especially at SAG, I would say, I do think Ariana Grande can win there. It's possible. But Zoe Saldana, she's got a lot of good stuff going for her too. And, at the Oscars with Emilia Perez having 13 nominations, 13, that movie's not going to go 0 for 13. I really don't see that. I think it at least wins 2 or 3 at the end of the day. And in the top 8 categories, Zoe Saldana is the most likely to win there. And I think you all need to be prepared. All of you who hate Emilia Perez is okay, it's over, it's not winning anything. And, be prepared for Zoe Saldana. Outside of a surprise moving forward, even if she were to lose somewhere along the way, right now, I do think she is coming for that Oscar win. In a weird way, I do think in the supporting acting categories, if one of the two who've been the front runners since the last few months, I would say, Zoe Saldana and Kieran Culkin, if one of them were to lose at the Oscars, in a way, Kieran Culkin makes more sense because A Real Pain did not get the Oscar nomination for Best Picture. It got into original screenplay, but it's not in picture in a field of 10. And that has given me a little pause. He can still totally sweep, and we might be overthinking it. But I'm there's Edward Norton right there for A Complete Unknown. And even though I personally wasn't that taken with Norton's performance in that movie, that thing is coming on so strong, especially going into SAG and the Oscars. Norton has 4 Oscar nominations. He's never won. That could be that movie's big victory in the top 8 categories. So I have my eye on Edward Norton right now. If he can win somewhere big before Oscars nights, it's possible. I think he could overtake Culkin maybe, But right now, it is looking like Kieran Culkin. I mean, what a great performance he gives in A Real Pain. And maybe he will just sweep right alongside Zoe Saldana. It is going to be interesting to see like how things shake up, if at all, at BAFTA and SAG moving forward. And now that Critics' Choice has ended, like things are heating up, things are gonna move very, very quickly. Like BAFTA is next weekend, SAG is the weekend after that, and then the Oscars are the weekend after that. So, you know, like this is all going to be happening very quick, and, you know, I will be here along for the ride, like trying to make sense of all the wins at all these ceremonies. Real quick before I wrap up, some of the other wins I really loved. I mean, obviously, Conclave won Best Adapted Screenplay. I feel like if there's one category in the top 8 that is for sure going to win on Oscars night, it does look to be Conclave and Best Adapted Screenplay. It won at the Globes. It won here at Critics' Choice. I mean, unless it loses somewhere between now and Oscars night, I think that's a pretty safe prediction, I would say. A Complete Unknown is in the category at the Oscars, so like maybe if they really love A Complete Unknown. But yeah, it's looking like Conclave. 2 of my favorite Critics' Choice wins were in cinematography and editing. Cinematography did not go to The Brutalist. It went to Nosferatu. Like, they gave Best Cinematography to a horror film. That is awesome. And Best Editing, like, I just did a video with Cody Derricks. We were talking about, like, what's going to win Best Editing at the Oscars? Could it be Anora? Could it be The Brutalist? Could it be Conclave? You know, like, what's going to win? Critics' Choice gave Best Editing to Challengers. To Challengers, my third favorite film of 2024. So inspired, so great. I love that Critics' Choice win. Best Score also went to Challengers. I mean, you know, like the Oscars blew it on that movie. I'm sorry. I really do think like Challengers should, at minimum, at the 97th Academy Awards, should have gotten into Best Editing and Best Score. It didn't have to win on the night, but like it should have been nominated in those 2 categories. You know, I also would have put it in picture. I would have put it in 5 or 6 categories total probably. But like it should have gotten into editing and score for it to win. Like win in both of those categories at Critics' Choice is great. And, you know, like some people, like they poo-poo Critics' Choice and they're like, oh, you know, they're just trying to vote for the things that are going to win at the Oscars. You can't say that about them this year. I mean, giving director to John M. Chu, giving editing and score to Challengers, like they're not even nominated at the Oscars. So how can you point fingers at Critics' Choice and say, oh, you're just, you know, you're just trying to vote for the things that are going to win at the Oscars? And like, I mean, even before Oscar nominations morning, like nobody thought John M. Chu would win the Oscar for Best Director. Many of us did not even think of him as a possibility to get into director. So like that one especially, like we can't look at Critics' Choice as just like, oh, they're trying to predict, trying to guess the Oscar wins. That was not the case this year for sure. Best Animated Feature went to The Wild Robot at Critics' Choice, which is great. You know, I still need to see Flow. Like I promise I'm watching it in like the next 5 days. I'm gonna watch it very soon. But I love The Wild Robot so much. I hope it's competitive to win the Oscar in Best Animated Feature. It won at Critics' Choice, and that's great. And then in Best Ensemble at Critics' Choice, it didn't go to Wicked, which I kind of thought would happen. It went to Conclave. And so even though Wicked overperformed in its number of nominations at SAG, I'm like, what if SAG Ensemble does not go to Wicked? What if it goes to Conclave? You know, a lot of us are starting to think in kind of a wild season for Best Picture and, you know, 5 or 6 films that could potentially win there. You know, I guess 7 if you count The Substance, you know, like The Substance. Could you imagine if that won Best Picture somewhere? Like, oh my God. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. That would be wishful thinking. But right now, there's a few movies at the Oscars that can win Best Picture. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's starting to think about Conclave. Could Conclave be this year's like Argo, Spotlight, a movie that doesn't win like 8 Oscars, but gets that win in adapted screenplay, maybe editing, and then it wins Best Picture over some other truly outstanding films? Right now, if I had to make a bet, like if I had to put money down right now, Conclave feels like the smart prediction to win the Oscar for Best Picture. We'll see what happens at BAFTA. We'll see if Conclave can win Ensemble at SAG. I mean, Conclave didn't win Picture at Critics' Choice. They went with Anora, but Anora didn't win in any other category. So I'm like, I don't know. It's interesting, but Critics' Choice has given us a lot to think about moving forward. We get to, for the next few days, we get to, reminisce and, try to analyze these wins at Critics' Choice before we get to BAFTA. BAFTA is the big one. If it's anything close to what happened last year, like what wins at BAFTA, most of those victories are likely going to align with the Oscars. So that, to me, is the big one. We'll see who and what wins at BAFTA. But that's all I got for you right now. I don't know if you watched the show or if you're just catching up on everything that won at Critics' Choice. But, even though not everything went the way I wanted it to or whatever, I am so thrilled for that Demi Moore win. We'll see if she can sweep. And I love, love, love that Anora won Best Picture at Critics' Choice. Even though it didn't win anything else, I don't care. Anora, my favorite film of the year, won Best Picture at a major televised precursor ceremony. And that is great. I am so excited. I can't wait to see what happens at PGA, DGA, and of course BAFTA and SAG moving forward until we get to the 97th Academy Awards on Sunday, March 2nd. I will be there with you every step of the way. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time at the Awards Contender.